Hello, everybody. This is Fernando for the latest 20 Things You Didn't Know About video. I thought I would mix another one of these new videos here, mainly because when I was looking at the information associated with this topic, it's definitely one that I've talked about a multitude of times within my channel. In fact, I have a playlist specifically dedicated to it, but this new playlist is a great way to once again feature some of those things I've mentioned before, but also some new items. And once again, it has to do with a very popular subject, one that you've probably even dabbled in yourself, and one that I do on an almost monthly basis. But it has to do with this. You're looking at a representation of it now. It's 20 things you didn't know about ghosts. Obviously, ghosts have a very, very popular attraction to people, and to this day multiple other specific mediums too, like different entertainment and other sectors. More on that here in just a moment. So let's go ahead and let's feature these 20 interesting facts. Love to hear what your own thoughts and comments are on each one, and maybe if there's some that you believe I should have added as well, please post it in the comments below. So number one is this: there are various types of ghosts. So there's not just one universal set of ghosts. No, there's a multitude or different factors of them. They range from the following. They range from orbs, which are the most common and very easiest to find. In fact, it's almost too easy. There's so many of those that can be interpreted literally just as dust. In fact, a lot of my ghost hunts that I go on, we run into that situation commonly. Then there's others associated with wisps, like almost like these little trails or little streams of ghosts that are caught on various pieces of evidence. I've talked about that in the past within some of my channels. I may have even captured some within some of my own excursions as well. And then also there's others involving the unseemly ones, like the other ones that are not seen, but they do have interactions, and those are the more bad ones, the poltergeists, in other words, very famous for several movies associated with them as well. And then finally, there's the full body apparitions. Those are the ones that are the most rare to actually find. Those are the ones where you actually see a ghost in person, almost as if it's an actual person, but it happens to be somebody that is long deceased. So those are at least the various types of ghosts. Let me know in the comments what types you've interacted with or found in the past, or at least captured evidence on. Love to see what people love to post there too. Number two is this: there are various ranges of equipment used to ghost hunt. First, I'm going to talk about the electronic ones. These are the ones that we use as well on the ghost hunts that I do, and then also the group I'm in that's called Spectre. For example, there's the EMF detectors. Those are the ones that usually have some kind of pinging colors, like they could be from red, yellow to green, or sometimes they have dials indicating with numbers. Some of them even make noises as well. We have one as a device that's called a REM pod that does really, really loud noise to make you know that something is right there nearby. Then other electrical equipment involves audio recorders. These are most commonly used with EVP sessions. You can have the most fanciest one in the world, or you could use those really cheap MP3 recorders. They all pretty much do the same trick, in my opinion. In fact, I just use my phone, the one that I'm using now for this particular video, for my actual EVP sessions. Then there's night vision equipment. You could either have goggles or binoculars that work that way, or you could have night vision cameras. It is highly recommended as well to add UV lights for it, because they'll create a fantastic new look whenever you're recording with night vision. It's almost as if it's daylight at that point. And then finally, regular cameras, those involving like the phone I was mentioning earlier. I use that all the time throughout all of my ghost hunts. And then also static cameras, like I have little mini camcorders, little mini ones that I just stick throughout several places, and then they turn on when something comes nearby. Or you could have more fancy equipment, stuff on tripods that you're leaving behind, and then again, hopefully something good is captured there. Number three is this. There are also some non-electric equipment that can be used when it comes to ghosts and ghost hunting. One that I've seen are dowsing rods. I've seen those used throughout various ghost tours. They are pretty good when it comes to pointing towards the existence of a ghost. The only thing I recommend on those is you have to be absolutely still. You cannot be walking around, moving about, turning. You just pretty much have to stay 100% stoic, and then those things move towards themselves. You can even use them for communications when it comes to ghosts. I've seen that happen as well, where you can tell a ghost yes means crossing it as an X, no means moving it back to its regular position, stuff like that. I've also seen other people and ghost hunters utilize amulets and other forms of jewelry as well. Some of it is used as a way to communicate more with ghosts, like to help bring them out. And then I've seen other types of equipment where it's more along the lines of protection, like people use them to make sure that nothing bad attaches to them afterward. Number four is this. There's also the human factor when it comes to equipment. Our own body is essentially a great piece of equipment when it comes to the world of ghosts. For example, there's the notion of hair sticking up whenever something is nearby, or our ears being very sensitive to picking up whispers, some people even more so than others, whereas other piece of equipment would not. Sometimes people bring temperature gauges, not the electrical kind, and in that way that'll showcase if there's a sudden drop. Or our body is also a great way to do that as well, because all of a sudden you'll feel what's called a cold spot. And then there's also a strong buzzing sensation that can happen within the body whenever a ghost is nearby. That actually happened to me on a ghost hunt that I was at somewhere in Central Texas. I believe it was called Old Town Springs, where all of a sudden there was a very, very strong buzzing sensation once the ghost hunter or the ghost tour guide told me there was the ghost right next to me. Then there's also smell. All of a sudden, if you smell a strange smell within your vicinity, could be cigar smoke, it could be perfume, other people smell other things as well. That too indicates the presence of a ghost. And then also mediums are also utilized to help detect ghosts, but on a far more intimate level. That's where they allow their bodies to be utilized as vessels, and then the ghosts can directly communicate with them. I've seen this happen in person there in Tyler, Texas, during a paranormal ghost hunt, where it was a location at an apartment where a person had actually killed themselves, and then that ghost was haunting that specific room that we were in, and they went inside that person and then started communicating with them right then and there. Number five is this. Another piece of equipment is actually more animalistic, and it has to do with our beloved furry friends. Cats are especially some of the greatest detectors of ghosts. There's a great line in that movie Constantine where Keanu Reeves' character Constantine says, cats are already pretty much half in, half out. And it's true. Like, I don't know how cats do it, but they absolutely can detect ghosts. Nothing sneaks beyond them, in other words. And it's been said that ghosts hate cats because of it, because they're always caught. Ghosts are always trying to move about, almost as if they're undetected. They enter a room with a cat, and the cat pretty much knows that it's there. And so that's why they tend to stay away from cats. So if you want essentially to be 100% not have ghosts in your home, get a cat, because they'll stay away from that. And then dogs also have a pretty good sixth sense towards detecting them. Maybe not as good as cats per se, but still definitely pretty high up there. You've seen multiple videos, in fact, on YouTube now that showcase dogs snarling at something midair, like something in the corner of a hallway, and obviously nothing is there. It's been said that that's because there's a ghost there. Number six is this. Ghosts are said to prefer nighttime, but that is a little bit debatable. More on that here in just a minute. It's been said that nighttime is the preferred time because there's less interference for the ghosts to make their presence known. So in other words, there's less people mulling about, there's less cars driving, traffic, the usual noise, less electrical equipment turned on. Once everything is pitch black, once all the lights are off, people are gone, and then there's little interaction. All you pretty much hear is just nothing. That's essentially when ghosts are said to come out. There's also the infamous witching hours, which some people say that is sometimes at midnight. Others say it's at 3 a.m. This is also a good time to be able to interact with ghosts. And it's more peaceful for us, more quiet for us to pick up on them too. We're not easily as distracted. So there's nothing else happening usually around that time if people are still awake, or in some cases if they're asleep. And so when that happens, that's when the detection of a ghost is much more of a chance, because it's easier for them to make their presence known. Number 7 though is different, like it's 180 degrees. There are plenty of examples of daytime ghosts, and here's what I mean. If you watch any of those wonderful shows like from My Ghost Story, those episodes that are there, look at any episode and you'll see plenty of witness examples where they talk about so and so thing happening with a ghost, but it's almost always during the day, such as when they're washing dishes or they're watching TV or they're getting up ready to go to work, stuff like that. It's something that they're doing around the house, and it's just a simple type activity during the day, and when that happens, all of a sudden the ghost is there. So why would it just be during at night when you have all of these examples during the daytime too? So, and that's why I feel too that daytime is just as good for ghost hunting than at night. Like, you don't necessarily need to have the lights off, that kind of stuff, because ghosts can easily make their presence known based on all those examples associated with those episodes and other series, because they want to make their presence known. So plenty of examples, in other words, when it comes to daytime ghosts. Number 8 is this: children are actually more susceptible to seeing ghosts. You hear those stories all the time about children having those imaginary friends, right? Those are friends that only kids can see. They are apparently seen like talking to somebody that's not there. It seems to be just with children. You never really hear adults doing things along those lines. There may actually be some science involved, because this is a time period where obviously the children are still growing up. Something is happening to their minds while their mind is developing during that time period. There seems to be like a certain level of energy that's there too. And who knows, maybe ghosts seem to be more interactive with that energy, with that specific time, than any other time of a normal person's life. So again, kids are far more susceptible to seeing ghosts. If you have somebody that says they've been talking to their imaginary friend, chances are it could be something along those lines. Number 9 is this: as much as we can see ghosts and hear them during ghost hunts and so on, they can also see and hear you. It's just like anything else in this world. Any of those ghost hunts that we've been on, there have been plenty of interactions where ghosts are responding intelligently to questions, and they can only do so if they have heard, or in some cases seen us whenever we're doing those specific questions. And we also have good evidence where ghosts have eavesdropped onto our conversations. There's this: if you ever want to ghost hunt, and let's say you're flatlining when it comes to evidence, like there's not much good evidence that's happening around you, you can try this trick. All you have to do is just start chit-chatting. If you're with someone else, just start a conversation about whatever. Or if you're by yourself, just call someone and something will happen. It's almost like 100% proof that it happens. It's weird, but it works. All of a sudden, it starts to bring out the ghosts that are surrounding us. It's almost like they want to join in that chit chat. The only way they can do it again is if they're eavesdropping, i.e., listening to us. It almost seems like, too, like they missed that interaction. More on that here in just a moment, too. But yeah, that almost seems to work 100% of the time. Number 10 is this: there are various types of ghosts. First one involving good ghosts. Let's talk about that. There are stories online, and then also those episodes I was mentioning earlier, My Ghost Story and others, where they're about ghosts coming back in order to console family members that are recently grieving them. So in other words, they just lost a loved one, but that loved one now comes back as a ghost. They in turn come aboard and then showcase themselves or make their presence known in some way, so that way the person knows it's okay. Like the ghost is there, or they moved on. They can stop grieving, in other words, and everything is fine. There's also stories I've read online of ghosts protecting households. These are ghosts that are, again, usually related to the family members, or maybe some of them were friends, and they in turn protect the household from intruders or even other types of dangers, sometimes even other ghosts too, other ghosts that are more dangerous along those lines. I've even read stories involving ghosts protecting children, like ghosts that see a child that somebody's about to cross over some dangerous street, or maybe the child doesn't see the car that's about to come around the corner. When that happens, the ghost protects the child, including up to pushing them away or making themselves visible to stop the child from being able to go into the street. There was even one story I read online of a ghost that was known to protect women during late night parking lot strolls. So, in other words, it was dark, there was not too many people around that parking lot, and so any woman that would be going back to their car, the ghost was there to make sure that nobody else would bother them during that time period. So, there's at least some examples of good ghosts. Number 11, I want to talk about this too, again, on the topic of good ghosts. A Christmas Carol. That's probably the most famous example of a story associated with ghosts doing good and causing someone to do good. Of course, it involves Ebenezer Scrooge pointing him, the ghost, in other words, pointing him towards the right direction, utilizing almost like a mixture of fear and positivity to do so. If you haven't seen, by the way, The Muppets Christmas Carol, that's a really good movie. It's a nice interpretation of the book as well. It's cute and fun, and then it showcases the ghosts doing what they needed to do when it comes to making sure that Scrooge changes his life. Number 12, just as there are good ghosts, there are also bad ghosts. So in life, there are good and bad people. Such as the world of afterlife, there's also good and bad ghosts. Someone that is usually a bad person in life usually equals a bad person in the ghost world too. This is someone where they in turn intimidate people that are around them. They don't like companionship. There's an example on our end at the Yoakum Hospital. We were doing a ghost hunt there and we ran into that. There's a ghost by the name of Edgar, something along those lines. And he, in turn, did not like us being there. Totally followed us throughout the 3 floors. Every time we moved from one floor to the other, we knew that he was around, and that he, in turn, made the overall night be bad. Like we had to leave early because of it. And then there's other situations where ghosts also try to keep other ghosts at bay, more innocent ones. This was actually the same thing, too, that I was mentioning earlier with regards to those ghostly interactions. There's the ghosts there also at the Yoakum Hospital. It could have been the same one involving Edward, where he in turn kept these children ghosts from becoming, like, let's say, released. Like they couldn't leave that location if but for the fact of that bad ghost that was there. There's also another example on my end over there in Las Vegas, Sunset Park. There's a ghost there also named Edward. Pretty bad one. He's one that essentially had killed people, maybe even some children when he was alive, but he haunts the location there at Sunset Park, and he's someone that is, again, very, very intimidating. I remember at one point, too, there was Randy, the famous Randy, who you've seen her, the beautiful Randy, here on my YouTube channel. She pulled me away at one point because she was stating that something was trying to approach me when I was there at Sunset Park, like in other words, like some shadow or something, and she thought that that was him. And so she pulled me away in time, and then in other words, everything was okay. So at least those are some examples of bad ghosts. Number 13, though, are the worst. This is the stuff involving pure evil ghosts. Like these are the ones that actively do harm to people up to the point of even killing them outright. The book that I'm reading right now here on my channel, The World's Greatest Ghosts, shows some good examples there. There's some examples of ghosts outright strangling people. There were some examples there where it was some ghost at a hotel, and then when they entered, they saw that something was outright strangling one of the people right there and caused him to die. And then there's other examples of ghosts causing problems with people's hearts as well, causing them to die outright, almost as if they're actually pushing in and grabbing the person's heart to stop it. There's other examples too of locations. I've talked about that on my channel. Demon's Road, which is located in Huntsville, Texas. You do not, I repeat, you do not want to go there. I was there in Huntsville for a ghost hunt, but I dared not go to Huntsville, Texas, like that road that's there, that Demon's Road, because it said that some evil ghosts love to follow people home and they love doing great harm to people as well. The Mackenzie poltergeist is another one that I've talked about on my channel here. I've actively told people, and I'll say it again here, do not visit that location. That is a ghost that has said to have caused great physical harm to people. And it's a poltergeist that enjoys doing so. So these are the most evil ghosts you can think of. Number 14 is this. There are some mischievous ghosts as well. Prankster ghosts. They like laughing at our expenses, especially when we're ghost hunting or whenever we're just living our normal life. For example, I've read stuff online of ghosts loving knocking over things just to have you pick them up, almost like a cat would, right? You see cats knock over things, and then there we are, like like they're the masters, and we're the ones that happen to be taking care of them, and so we're now picking things up. And then there's other examples of ghosts causing things to disappear, which causes people to argue about it. Just overall pranksters. We've run into that too on our ghost hunts. There was a location that was called the Haunted Mansion. I forget what the town was called. It might have been Corpus Christi, but there we ran into a ghost that loved knocking at one location of the area. We went to go over there, and then as soon as we did so, it started knocking at the location that we were just at. And it did this over and over again. We knew at that point that it was a prankster ghost, but it kept doing it. We were just trying to make sure we could capture evidence, but I'm sure it was getting a big laugh at us at the same time too. Number 15 is this. There are also lonely ghosts. These are ghosts that enjoy the attention when people are around. They miss that stuff. I was kind of alluding to it earlier. For whatever reason, they're trapped in their location, so they cannot leave it. And so because of it, on those long nights and days when nobody is there, they miss companionship. But when someone shows up, they absolutely enjoy it. They enjoy eavesdropping on conversations. They love moving things around, interacting, just to make sure that they know that we know that they're there and so on. Yoakum Hospital is a good example of this with the children ghosts that I was mentioning earlier. As soon as we arrived, we started to have some great interaction with those children ghosts. They started moving little balls around, little toys, in other words, that we had from them. They started making lights go on and off as well. It was something that was really, really good. Another good example with almost 100% positivity, like proof when it comes to this. If you ever want to go to Fort Concho, you can stay there overnight. And there at the quarters one, or one quarters is what it's called, you'll run into the ghost of Edie. This was a poor young girl who died at just 12 years old due to an illness involving typhoid fever. Well, she haunts that location. She haunts that specific house where she died, especially the room that she died. And because of it, she's just a little girl. She just wants companionship. You will have interactions with her there. I've tested it. I've been there before, both by myself and then also with one of my ghost members that were there too. And sure enough, we just interacted with her throughout most of the night. In fact, best evidence I've ever captured was having her open a locked, I repeat, a locked closet door that was on command. It opened up right there, right in front of us, and it was all thanks to her. It was thanks to Edie and what she was trying to do. So another example associated with lonely ghosts and some areas that you can visit if you wanted to have some good ghostly interactions. Number 16 is this. The world of ghosts can also be very, very lucrative, money-wise, in other words. There's plenty of TV shows out there right now that show proof of this. Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, the aforementioned My Ghost Stories, and others. Each of them have just multiple seasons and legions of fans all of them, watching all those many episodes, new ones that are coming out soon, past ones to rewatch. I've even seen ghost cons, like in other words, conventions associated with plenty of those stars. There's also lots of movies that have been released in the past and are even coming up now that all involve themes associated with ghosts, and they're all major box office draws. There's the Amityville Horror, like the franchise that comes to mind. There's the Exorcist franchise as well. There's the movie Ghost. That's another example. All of them big, huge box office numbers, and all of them just continue to be made, and people are still fascinated with them. There's even other items like museums that are a big draw. There's the most famous one is the Zach Bagans Haunted Museum, which I've been to multiple times, and I've had some great interactions there too. And then, of course, there's the aforementioned ghost hunts, the locations that you can go to. There's plenty of them here in Texas and, of course, throughout the country. And all of them for a price allow you to stay overnight. And then that way it's either a cheap price or it's much more expensive, but you'll have some good ghostly interactions as well. So very lucrative. Number 17 is this. Some ghosts are actually not necessarily ghosts per se, but they're still there. They just happen to be instead playing something over and over. And here's what I mean. For whatever reason, once they died, and they came back as ghosts, they in turn just relive a certain moment over and over again. It's almost like it's to infinity, no end associated with it, regardless of who or what is around them. And they don't interact with people too. They don't interact with anything that's surrounding them. They just do some action over and over again. People have seen where ghosts, for example, open a door and then move beyond, or it's almost like they're talking to someone and then they disappear, and then that action just continues again and again. There's no intelligence associated with their actions. It's just something that's on continuous loop. That's why there's a theory of ghosts, quote unquote, walking through walls, is because this action was them walking through a doorway, like an open doorway. But that back then when it used to be there, but now things are changed much later. Now there's a wall there, but it's them reliving that moment over and over again. I have yet to run into that type of ghost where it's just something constantly playing over a similar action, but they do exist out there. Number 18 is this. Ghosts prefer actually not to stay at cemeteries. It's true. It's 100% true. One of the least haunted places to ever investigate is a cemetery. Now, I'll give one example here in a moment where it's different, but pretty much all my other examples, everything that I've been through as far as cemeteries, it's dead, no pun intended. It could be because that's where their ghosts are buried, like the ghosts' original bodies are buried. Maybe they just don't like visiting them. Maybe just don't like staying there. Who knows? But there are many other examples of ghosts preferring homes or parks or buildings, forts like the ones I've been throughout Texas, missions as well, churches. Churches is another thing that involving ghostly interactions. In fact, the only cemetery that I've had good interactions with is the Cemetery of Lost Children, which is there in Arlington, Texas. That's where a bunch of ghostly children and ghostly babies are also found. I have had some good interactions there. I've also seen shadow people there as well. So that's the only thing offering difference to otherwise ghosts hating or staying at cemeteries. Number 19 is this. If you actually want a better chance at interacting with ghosts, ghosts are more frequently seen in places of battle or places of great death. Anywhere you go where there's lots of lives lost, anything especially involving great pain and suffering right before that death, that's what causes the ghosts to stay there most often. And they tend to be the ones that are the most intelligent, for lack of a better term, like the ones that are most interactive as well. Gettysburg is perhaps the most famous example here in the U.S. It was that infamous Battle of Gettysburg, over 50,000 soldiers lost. You can go there, you can stay overnight as well. It's on my bucket list to do so too. But if you go there, you're going to have a very good chance of having ghostly interactions. Same thing with the Waverly Hills Sanitarium, another one, something else that's on my bucket list to visit. Over 50,000 deaths associated with tuberculosis throughout the time there. And so if you go there on their overnight ghost hunts, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to have a ghostly interaction too. So any place involving battle or any place involving large numbers of death, That's where you'll have pretty much a secure spot to find anything as far as ghosts. And number 20, I'll end things off on a neat little bit of trivia, something that I discovered new when I was reading research for this video. Ghosts apparently love lemons. Apparently, the scent of a lemon helps attract more ghosts. I don't know why. I don't have examples of it why, because I haven't run into it yet. But if you want to attract a lot of ghostly attention, just be sure to bring a lot of lemons. Slice them open. That scent will permeate your area, and then apparently ghosts will come about soon. All right, everybody, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. 20 things you didn't know about ghosts. If there's any you might have missed, others that are more interesting to share, please post those comments below. All right, everybody, thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.